So I'm Linda.
And I'm Troy, and we are Wines, Pines, and Canines. For those of you that are new to our channel, we have a GeoPro 19 FBS. But all of the activities and functions we're going to talk about today generally apply to almost all RVs.
So we are going to be looking at sanitizing our freshwater tank, looking at the need to change out that anode rod in the hot water heater, and we're going to be looking at maybe some reasons why water pressure inside your camper may not be great.
In addition, we're going to talk about how we maintain our black tanks, and I've got a solution to a sticky dump valve on the back of the camper.
And I've got a quick tip for all you Forest River owners out there for information that you can find on your camper online. I wanted to quickly talk to you about the Forest River app. Now, I recently discovered this and downloaded it, and I really like this app. All you have to do is go online, and then you select your camper, your year, and it has all of the relevant owner's manuals, it has videos, and it has checklists. One thing I found really helpful is it has a step-by-step to winterize, de-winterize, and sanitize your tanks. And one of their tips for sanitizing their tanks we're going to use today in just a minute.
The items I used on this little project, and it went real well, was following. I need a self-tapping screw, I need an 1/8 inch drill bit, I need a small drill, and I need a can of spray lubricant. This is a product that I'm going to use in the future. It's not what I used in the video that you'll see, but I'm going to use this in the future because I think it's probably superior. Now, it goes without saying, before doing this mod, or doing anything with your gray, and especially your black tanks, folks, let's make sure those bad boys are completely empty. All right, so here we are underneath the camper. Common problem. Gray tank valve is sticking. It's giving me a lot of trouble. There are some solutions supposedly made by Thetford that you would pour into your holding tanks and they would lubricate this valve. I've decided to go another way. This is a well-traveled hack and mod online. I'm going to drill a hole into the top of this case, and then I'm going to shoot some lubricant that's going to fill this void space here. And the whole idea is, right now it's kind of difficult to go in and out. What I'm trying to get to is a place where it operates fluidly and like it should. All right, so we're going to drill a hole in the top of this housing with an 1/8 inch drill bit to allow us to introduce the lubricant directly into the case. Okay, easy money. That ought to do it. So now that I've drilled the hole, put the lubricant in here, I'm going to use a self-tapping screw to fill the hole that I drilled earlier. There we go. Now annually, when I decide to do a service, I'm simply going to pull the screw out, shoot more lubricant in, and the problem should be pretty well solved. Now, if I find this solution works for me and it's working well, I'm going to follow the same procedure on the black tank valve, and hopefully I won't have any problem with either one.
Okay, so now we're going on to sanitizing. Now, we have already done this back when we de-winterized, but we've used the camper a number of times over the last 3 or 4 months, and what we have found is I think we left some water in it. It's been sitting at the storage unit, and it had some algae on this trip. So we're doing this all over again. The first step to sanitizing is figuring out how much bleach. So for every 15 gallons that your tank is, you're going to use 1/4 cup to 1 gallon. Ours is 30 gallons, so that's a 1/2 cup to 2 gallons. So once you have the bleach and water mix, you're going to go ahead and add it to the camper. Or Forest River also gives the option of pouring the bleach directly into a hose and then hooking up the hose to the water supply. But either way that you go, you want to make sure that you fill your tank up to full at the end. Now, once your freshwater tank is full, you're going to turn on that water pump and then turn on the faucets one by one and take a sniff until you can smell the bleach. Then go ahead, turn off the faucets. So once that tank is full, gonna have to wait. Forest River recommends at least 3 hours, although we've gone 6 hours, and I do know that some people just go ahead and do it right before bed and let that bleach water sit all night long. So once your time is up, you're going to want to go ahead and drain the tanks. We do it usually by opening the faucets and just draining into the gray tank, but we have also opened up that drain valve and let the rest of the water pour out. Then you're going to want to fill that tank back up or flush the system with clean water until you no longer smell the bleach. Okay, so here's our next tip for keeping those water systems flowing correctly. Now, this is something we just learned about and we want to pass it on, but if you find that you have low water pressure at one of your sinks or your toilet, or you're just doing your yearly maintenance, this is a great thing to do, and that is to clean out your filter screens. You're going to find 3 of them, one in the faucets, one in the toilet, and one in the water pump. So let's get started. So the first screen we cleaned was here in the bathroom. Now this little part at the bottom of the faucet just unscrews, and inside we just rinse all of these things out as they can get filled with sediment. So if you find you do have low water pressure coming from a faucet, this may fix the problem. Okay, next up was the toilet. Now we haven't had any problems so far, but we wanted to take a look at the screen. Unfortunately, where our toilet was located, we would have had to remove it to get to the screen. As we currently aren't having any issues, we decided to just go ahead and let it be for now. But again, if you find that you're having low water pressure coming into your toilet and you think it may be the screen, this is where ours was located. Now the final screen was on our water pump. Remember that algae we talked about earlier? Well, keep watching. On our camper though, the water pump is located under the bed by the water filter, and this little cap just goes ahead and unscrews, and that's where the screen is. And of course, whenever we're under here, somebody always has to investigate first. But as you can see, this filter was full of algae and plastic bits, so we're really glad we cleaned this out. We've been having a little trouble with our water pump, and we think this may be one of the issues, and we'll see if this fixes it.
The next project we want to address today is changing the anode rod in our hot water heater. To do that, we're going to need an 1/16" socket with extension, some Teflon tape, the anode rod itself, and then when that's all complete, we also recommend that you use a tank rinser, and the one we use is made by a company called Camco. In the run-up to doing this kind of service, there's 2 things you want to focus on. Number 1, you want to make sure there's no water pressure coming into the camper. You want to make sure that's off. You also want to make sure that the water heater itself has been turned off for quite some time and that there's no hot water in the canister. You can test that by running the faucets in the coach, making sure there's no hot water coming out. The first thing you do to make sure there's no pressure in this heater is there's a PRV, or a pressure releasing valve. That's what this little tab is right now. When I pull this lever, it's going to release the pressure from the tank. This is an 1/16" socket on a 1/2" drive extension. You're going to put this on and you're going to give it just a little bit of pressure and see how easy that came out. Now be ready, because when I pull this out in just a moment, unless I'm really paying attention, I'm fixing to get wet. Now you can take this off, grab it. You want to be able to get out of here. There we go. So when you pull it out, this is what a zinc anode looks like. It's called a sacrificial anode because it actually consumes this little bar as opposed to cause corrosion within the housing of the water heater. It's a great technology and a good idea. This particular anode I expected to be in worse shape than it is. I was going to replace it, but honestly, I'm just going to try and get some more out of it because it'll do quite a bit more work before it's out of lifespan. I did buy one and I was ready to put it in, but I'll just save this for later in the year. Now that I've got the zinc anode out and it's easy to access, I'm going to take this opportunity to rinse out the inside of the water heater. If there's any sediment deposits, any kind of crud, this is going to rinse all that out. I'm going to take it and run this inside the same hole as the zinc anode and let's give it a blast. There's probably not much in here, but still a good idea to give it a good bath. All right, so that's complete. I didn't see a lot of corrosion come out. Now that this is done, we're going to go ahead and put that zinc anode back in. Teflon tape is what's used to seal threads on a zinc anode or any kind of plumbed connection where you're trying to make sure there's no leakage. You can buy the cheap, inexpensive Teflon tape. I prefer this one. It's called Blue Monster. Now we're going to fit this in here and start to give it a few turns. It may take a few seconds to get it started. There we go. I'll get it in there hand tight. Then I'm going to take that 1/16" socket, change the direction. You don't have to over tighten these. You just have to get them snug up. You run the threads out, you're in trouble. That would probably be good. Okay? Now the last thing I do is make sure the PRV valve is in the closed position so that the unit can actually pressurize again. Also, you want to make sure that the water's back on and that this unit is full of water before you go to use this heater in the future. Doing a service like this, once you're comfortable with it, will take between 5 and 10 minutes on the outside. Really simple to do. You should do it every year. Let's get on to the next task.
So no video on water maintenance is going to be complete without how we keep odors from the black tank down. And for that, we use Happy Campers. We have been using this a number of years and are very happy with it. We fill the flush with approximately 1 gallon and then add a scoop, let it dissolve, and send it down. Now we do this about at least once a trip. But there's also one other thing that needs to be done to maintain that little black rubber seal around the flush ball, and that helps keep odors out as well, and water in the bowl. Now for that, we use an old toothbrush, clean around that rubber seal, and then add some Odie's plumber's grease. Now we had an older camper that we did not do this on, and we ended up having to replace that seal, which meant removing the flush. So now we do the little bit of preventive maintenance. And guys, that's where we're going to end today's video. As always, thanks for watching, and hopefully we see you soon out on that open road.